Humber Zizek is an absolute douchebag. He goes full-on Bill Cosby in this episode, and that makes him even easier to hate. Greetings, my friends, it's time to go diving in another episode of SAOA, that's Sword Art Online Alicization, another episode which is chronicling the adventures of Kirito and Eugeo as they try to become the strongest swordsmen in the underworld and save their friend Alice. But there's going to be a major roadblock in the way, and that roadblock is a douchebag by the name of Humber Zizek. Yes, he's one of the two douchebags who's like an even lesser and cooler version of Jesse and James from Team Rocket, and he's causing a lot of trouble for everyone. These two noblemen absolutely hate everyone. They look down on everyone. Even if they're nobles like them, they are so up their own asses that they are annoying. Then again, they are characters that are made to be hated, so honestly, good job, series. I absolutely do hate them. But most of this episode revolves around Humber Zizek as he goes through this very elaborate plot to get rid of Eugeo, as well as anyone who is associated with him. And he's going to go to any means in order to make this happen, including sexual assault, which is a pretty heavy-handed thing for Sword Art Online, and begs the question, can an AI sexually assault someone? Yes. Yes, it can. So this episode kicks off when Eugeo is actually challenged to Humber in a sword battle, which of course ends up making him look like a complete fool when Eugeo manages to pretty much rock his world. If this battle was allowed to actually continue, there's no doubt in my mind that blonde Kirito would have probably ended up kicking his ass, but his friend Rhinos decides, nah, we're just gonna call it a draw right there. Call it a draw? That's some bullshit. That's like what the Black Knight said in Monty Python and the Holy Grail when he got all of his limbs cut off. Humber being defeated and humiliated by Eugeo leads him to do something very drastic in order to get back at him, in order to actually get him kicked out, and that's going to involve the pages or the trainees of these individual swordsmen, these female characters, a couple of which we've actually seen before, such as Tease and Roni, who make a pretty big appearance in this episode. They actually end up going on a picnic with Eugeo and Kirito, and this is where they sort of pour their souls out to help out their friend Frenica, who has not appeared in the series, and I'm not sure why. They want us to care about this character, but we haven't seen them yet. The point is, these girls are on the end of their rope, and they're scared for their friend, who is constantly being abused by Humber. What is Humber actually doing to Frenica? Well, he's actually making her personally massage him during his baths. I mean, you can kind of do the math here. It's pretty freaking creepy what he's actually doing, and he's doing all of this to sort of get a rise out of all of these girls so that they'll eventually go to Eugeo and sort of maybe make him lose his cool and get angry. However, this isn't going to happen as Kirito is teaching Eugeo the ways of being cool. And that training basically consists of, dude, just chill the fuck out. However, this entire picnic scene is very important, not only showing the strong relationships that Kirito and Eugeo has formed with their fellow subordinates, but also the fact that Kirito lets these girls know that what Humber is doing, despite the fact that it is within his power, within the rules of this world, is still inherently wrong. It's not saying that what he's doing in the taboo index is something that you shouldn't do, but that doesn't really mean that what he's doing is truly noble here. What I love about this is that, again, he's actually ended up giving more free will and characterization to these AI people who really don't exist at all, but you really get to see from this episode that they practically are real people with real problems, especially the girl of Tease, who makes it very clear that she's very obsessed with Eugeo, and by the very end of the episode, she makes a proposition to him that in the upcoming swordsman, he could eventually become a noble, and if he does so, would he end up being the husband of Tease. Yes, she wants to get married. The thing is, though, it's very clear that Eugeo seems to have feelings for Alice, something that he's always had, and considering that this is all a part of his mission, I don't think this is something he's going to fully go through with, but I mean, you know, this is Sword Art. All of the male characters have to have some sort of harem. So what's the rundown on this episode of Sword Art Online Alicization? Another pretty fantastic episode, although I have to admit, I'm kind of sick of these villain bully characters. They're so stock and annoying, and you just know eventually they're going to be put in their place. However, this episode went into some surprisingly dark territory, especially with the whole sexual assault thing going on here. You know, there's no, like, scene that's on display or anything. There's nothing really uncomfortable to see. A lot of it is mostly what can be inferred by what you're actually thinking in your head, but for a lot of people, that's going to go to some pretty dark places. You're gonna go down to some corridors and see some things in your mind that make you realize that these two assholes are pretty fucked up. And ultimately, their comeuppance is going to be one of the best things about this entire arc right here. But again, this was kind of another slow episode, which was just showing us the relationships that Kirito and Eugeo are forming with their fellow swordsmen, and how ultimately this is probably going to have a massive effect on this world as things go on, as in many ways they're going against the grain. They're actually not completely following the rules on everything, and they're letting the people within this world know that they are free spirits that can do what they want. And again, I think this is all a part of the plan of why Kirito was in this world in the first place, to influence these AI characters and to ultimately make them more independent, yet at the same time to make them just as docile and influential, thus why they can transform these AIs into literal killers. If that's the actual plan, well, things are going really well. But again, I think one of the most fascinating things about this series so far is that Kirito is indeed stuck in a game world, yet even he seems to get lost in a lot of it with his interactions with these characters, and you end up sort of forgetting that Kirito and Eugeo are stuck in this world. It just sort of feels kind of like a standard fantasy anime series, and I think that's going to lead to a lot of really great drama in the show and mess with the viewers in a very nice and psychological way. I also did like that we got to see a little more action at the beginning of the episode, Eugeo versus Humbert, which was all sorts of freaking awesome, giving us that stylistic SAO action in it. The character of Tease being in love with Eugeo is not a surprise at all. They made it clear when she was introduced and made it even more so in this episode. They were not shy about it at all. It's actually kind of a sweet moment that she's basically this woman who wants to be swept up under her feet by some sort of white knight. Though I have a feeling these feelings are not going to be reciprocated, if only for the fact that, yeah, Eugeo's in love with Alice. Again, that's probably going to add a tremendous amount of drama, yet it's still going to be satisfying when eventually we see Eugeo take these fools down. Especially because, like I said, they're just so stock. They're just the most boring freaking bully villains ever, and you're just waiting for that moment where eventually they're just gonna get fucked up. And I'm sure it's gonna be satisfying. I just hope that we get to it soon so we can move on to the bigger part of the story. Overall, I thought this was a pretty solid addition to SAOA, and it's the beginning of a new major arc for the series, which is doing a great job of tricking the viewers into forgetting that Kirito is actually trapped in some sort of weird AI world. It's doing a really great job at doing that, so I'm giving this episode a 4 out of 5. You guys need to check it out. If any of you did watch the episode, tell me what you thought about it in the comment section below and what you hope to see from the rest of Sword Art Online Alicization. Thank you guys for watching this review. I'll see you all next time, and as always, stay down there, baby.